readathons. There's a lot of great readathons happening in September, and there's still time that we might find out there may be more, but we'll start with the 3-month-long readathon with Covers with Cassidy, and this is the Seasonal Spooky Challenge, and I believe this runs from September through November, and there's 3 different sections for this. So we have read a book for every setting, so that's this first section, and the different settings are urban, summer camp, isolated, a small town, southern, haunted house, coastal, and in the woods. So these ones I will most likely fill in as I read some of the books, because you don't necessarily know if it's an isolated setting or if it's a coastal town until you actually start reading the book. But I'm pretty sure I have a couple books that will fit into this category in September. And then the second section is unlocking. So it's each book has to match one of these. And all of your 8 settings have to also match one of these. Oh, so these books also have to match one of these settings. Interesting. I got it. But you can only cross each one off once, so you can't do multiple novellas with a coastal setting. You can only do one. So some of the settings, we have a young adult, so that makes it fairly easy. A book you didn't buy, so it could be one you were gifted or got from the library or borrowed from a friend. A new author to you, a novella, a diverse rep, audiobook on someone else's TBR, and a new release. So that'll be interesting. So you have to have ones that fit both the first and second section. Interesting. So section 3 are cover prompts. So you would find these on the covers of your books. And these ones are hands. So it can't be just like a person that happens to have a hand. The hand needs to be somewhat predominant on the cover. A window, a weapon, an animal, blood, tech, eyeball, and water. So that'll be interesting. So I do have a few that I already know will work for a couple of these. And then there's also some bonus challenges down here at the bottom. So we have find these items in your books: vampires, cults, cannibals. That might be a little harder to find. There's not as many books with cannibals in it. Mixed media, ghosts, and serial killer. So these will be kind of fun and may broaden your reading horizons a bit and get you out of your typical genre to find some of these items. So this one will be a lot of fun, and I'm excited to kind of fill it in as I go and see what books I read fit into all these different areas. Next is Sufferathon, and this is with Pages with Paige, as well as quite a few other channels, and I will leave all of these linked down below for you in case you would like to join in and take part of the readathons as well. But each Sunday at 6 a.m. Australian Standard Time, they will be leaving the different prompts for that week. And this is probably the only readathon that I do that you don't get to plan your entire TBR ahead of time. I don't like those. Mainly because I have to remember to go in and watch the prompts and try and figure out what they are. And yeah, my absent-minded brain, out of sight, out of mind, if it's not already planned out, then I don't remember about it. So this is really the only readathon that's like that I actually take part in, but it is so much fun. Last year was so much fun. I loved it, and I'm looking forward to taking part in it again this year. So I don't know what my prompts are or what my TBR is going to be for that yet. We'll find out in September, because the first prompt will drop on September 1st. Next up is Seasonathon, and this is with Completely Melanie, as well as Pages with Paige as a co-host. So there's quite a few different hosts as well, and they'll be linked in the announcement video down below if you would like to take part. And basically you have specific classes that you need to complete in order to pass, but then there's also some bonus ones that you can do if you choose. The required prompts, and I am sticking to the required prompts this time because I already have way too much going on in September. So I'm going to stick to the required prompts and be really good about that. So the first one is English 2010. Read any book you like and post a review. So that will be pretty easy. And I have chosen A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair. And this is the first book in the Hades and Persephone series. And then English 2130, read an American classic or an American banned book. And I actually found a book that fits both of those prompts, and that is Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. It is a classic and it is a banned book, and I believe there is a book burning and banning of books in the book. So it definitely covers the entire prompt. The next prompt is select one from the natural science with lab category. So they have 6 different options and you only need to choose one, but if you like to be an overachiever like I usually am, and I am definitely not going to do that this time, you can read all of them. And I chose Physics 1030, which is general physics, and that is read a sci-fi and post a review. I do like that they have the post a review as part of the prompt because it definitely helps out the authors when you post reviews about their books. Whether you have a big long one or just a one sentence something, it definitely helps. So for my sci-fi, I chose Of Claws and Inferno by Kyoko M, the 5th book in the Of Cinder and Bone series. And I love this series. Highly recommend it. Highly pick it up if you like sci-fi, if you like cloning, if you like dragons. Pick it up. Pop culture references. Yes. Prompt number 4 is to select one from the non-Western culture category. And this one has 8 different options for you. And I chose Geology 1030, which is world geography. And that is to read a book set in a country other than the US or UK. And there was a couple of books I could have chosen for this one, but I needed one of the other books for one of the other prompts. So I went with Katana of Trust by A.C. Ward. A.C. Ward, and this is the first book in the Kami Prophecy series. Then lastly, Foreign Language 3120, Intermediate Foreign Language 3, and read a translated book. And for this one, I went with Sweet Daryusia by Maria Matios, and this one is translated from Ukrainian. Next up, we have the Goddess Complex Readathon, and this is put together by Beatriz's book Nook and has some other hosts as well. And this one is a mythology-based readathon, if you couldn't tell by the Goddess Complex. And I am on Team Athena. You also have Team Artemis, Team Persephone, and I don't remember what the 4th one is. I don't remember now, but I'm on Team Athena, so that's the one I paid attention to. And you can repeat prompts, up to 3 prompts per book, but only 1 from each category. So there's 3 different points categories. So your book can't be all 3 50-point books or 50-point and 2 100-point books or all 150-point books. They have to be 1 from each. So a 50-point, a 100-point, and a 150-point for a total of 300 points per book if you would like, and you can use the prompts multiple times. So then you have your main prompts. I think there's 12 of those, and then you have 5 team prompts that you can choose from. So the first team prompt is for Team Athena, is Athena's Shield, and that is a person on the cover, and I went with Quicksilver by Callie Hart, the first book in the Fae and Alchemy series. For the next prompt was Spear, a weapon on the cover. You'll start to see the same books over and over if I did my job correctly in building my TBR. And for this one, I did choose Katana of Trust. It's kind of hard to see in the Kindle version, but there is a sword here. So Katana of Trust by A.C. Ward, the first book in the Kami Prophecy series. Next team prompt is Armor, Depicting War. So a book that depicts war of some kind, and for that I'm going to read Pale Kings, which is the 2nd book in the Emaneska series by Ben Galley. Next team prompt for Athena is The Olive Tree, and that is to read a book that involves competition. And I'm pretty sure, I think I read the description, I think this one has competition. If not, I may need to change it. So if you know, let me know down in the comments. And I chose A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair, and this is the first book in the Hades and Persephone series. So if it does not have a competition, let me know so I can choose a different book. Then the last Team Athena prompt is Owl, a book with a mentor, and I chose Of Claws and Inferno by Kyoko M, the 5th book in the Of Cinder and Bone series. And this one of the main characters does have a mentor, a couple of mentors, and one of the main characters is somewhat of a mentor to one of the other side characters. Now again, if I don't get to all of these books in this readathon, that's okay. You don't have to read every single prompt, and I could triple up on prompts per book and get more points and that kind of thing. So you don't have to have just one prompt for one book for each of the prompts, but I planned one for each of them just in case, because most of these are on my TBR anyway, so might as well. But if I don't get to all of them, as long as I get to at least one book, then I'm happy. Main prompt number 1 is Armor of Achilles, and that is to read a comfort read. And for that, I'm going to read Spelling the Tea, and this is a magical tea room mystery by Erin Johnson. And this one just looks so fun and cozy. I am looking forward to it. Prompt is Apollo's Lyre, most read genre, which for me is fantasy. The Heart of the Bloodstone by Philina Wood. And this one is the first book in the Stone Tribes series, and this one is a fantasy book. So I will go ahead and put this one in the most read genre category. Next for 50 points is Zeus's Bolt, top of your TBR. I could use Heart of the Bloodstone because I've been wanting to read that one for a while, because I've had that one for a while. So top of TBR, let's actually go with Edgar Allan Poe's The Fall of the House of Usher for that one, because it's definitely one that's been on the top of my TBR for quite a while, especially since the TV series came out on Netflix. I've been wanting to watch it, but I kind of want to read it first so I kind of know what's going on. So let's go with The Fall of the House of Usher for that one. So the last of the 50-point prompts is Hermes Sandals, a popcorn read, is something that's going to be quick and easy to read. For that, I will be reading Beyond the Veil by Pippa da Costa. Prompts for 100 points. Cap of Invisibility, a bingeable book, and for that I will be reading Saga Volume 6, because I know as soon as I'm done with it I'm going to want to pick up Volume 7. Another 100-point one is Lotus Tree, a translated book, and of course I will be using Sweet Daryusya, which is by Maria Matios, and that is translated from Ukrainian. Next is Poseidon's Trident, a book from a trilogy. I don't have one. I looked at every book that I have planned for my TBR, and not one of them is a trilogy. They're duologies. There's 4 to 6 books, 9 books in the series. None of them have just 3 books. Not even like 3 books in a novella. So, I'm still looking for that one. I definitely have trilogies that I'm reading, but none of them are actually on my TBR right now. So, because I could do The Winter of the Witch by Catherine Arden. That would finish up the Winter Night trilogy for me. I could start the Bone Witch Saga by Ringe Chupeko, because that one's a trilogy. But I don't necessarily want to start any new series right now, besides the ones I'm already starting that are on my TBR. I could read The Bitter Twins, the second book in the Winnowing Flame trilogy by Jen Williams, because I do have that one. I could read Shadow Witch, which is the second book in the Firstborn Academy by Isla Frost, but I don't have that one, so I'd have to find that one. So yeah, I'm still thinking on that one. That may be a prompt I don't do, and I just double up with some others. We'll see. So the last 100-point prompt is Scale of Justice, a possible 5-star read, and for that I'm going to choose A Closed and Common Orbit by Becky Chambers, the second book in the Wayfarer series, because the first one was pretty much, if you round up, it's definitely a 5-star read. I think it was like 4.75, super close. Rounding up, it's pretty much a 5-star read, so I think the second book will be the same. Now, of course, of Claws and Inferno is definitely predicting a 5-star read, but that was for one of the teen prompts, and I don't want to double up between the two categories, so we'll make it separate. 150 point prompts. Ambrosia, longest book on your shelves, and for that one I'm going with the biggest, so it could be the longest in pages, or it could be longest in, you've had it on your TBR for the longest, and for that one I'm going with Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke. It's also, it's both very long, and I've wanted to read that for a long time. Prometheus Chains. Create a link with the previous book that you've read. So when I was looking at this prompt, the prompt that I am reading is Camp Half-Blood Confidential by Rick Riordan, and this one is Greek mythology, and that just fits nicely with A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair, because this is all about Hades and Persephone. Pandora's Box, an intimidating read. Now, Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell is definitely an intimidating read, because I've heard the writing style at times is very slow, and at other times it's very a nice prose to it, which makes me nervous because I don't always, some of that prose just goes over my head and I don't quite get it. So that one is definitely intimidating, but also Hex Life, Wicked New Tales of Witchery by a variety of authors, as it is a short story collection, and short story collections always make me a little nervous. They are a little intimidating and also a little frustrating, because you just start getting into the story and then it ends, and then you just start getting into the next story and it ends. So that's why I don't really like short story collections, but sometimes they surprise me, like The Advent of Winter, put together by Dom from Dominish Books, and I loved every single story in that collection. It was so good, and there's 24 of them. They were all so good. 5-star book. If you can find it, pick it up, because it's amazing. And I'm pretty sure it's available on Amazon now if you want to pick it up. All right, last prompt for 150 points is Trojan Horse, a book with a plot twist. This one's a little harder to plan out, because you don't always know if there's going to be a plot twist or not. But I was reading the synopsis of one of the books I have on my Magical Readathon TBR, and it sounded like one that would probably have a plot twist in it somewhere. So I'm gonna kind of pencil this one in and see if it does fulfill that prompt. And that is Freak Show, The Nightshade Cases, and this is by Patty Larson. This one is a mystery thriller, which tells me there's probably going to be a plot twist in there somewhere, just because it's a mystery and there's usually a plot twist somewhere. So I'm going with that one. And then you also have the option to get an extra 100 points if any of your books are retellings, which of course A Touch of Darkness is. Now I'm not sure how many others I have on here, but I do have some others on my TBR in general that I could add to this if I need to, like What Moves the Dead, which is a retelling of The Fall of House of Usher. So there are some options. I think I have a Cinderella retelling in here somewhere. I might have taken that one off. We'll see. But as I read through, I can add some other books if I find out they are retellings. But if you need a fun short retelling for this one, I would go with The Sleeper and the Spindle by Neil Gaiman, because that's a Snow White and Sleeping Beauty retelling mashup. And it's short and really interesting and it's good. So I would recommend that one. But you also get, and that's 100 points if it's a retelling. You also get extra points if you read a host favorite, which A Touch of Darkness is one of the host's favorite. Their submission form and everything will be in their Discord channel, which is linked on the announcement video. So that is the Goddess Complex Readathon. Lastly, we have the Magical Readathon with the lovely G at Book Roast. And for that one, I have 2 characters, and they are both double or triple majors. So I have been doing the double major from pretty much the beginning, from the get-go, and I read the books for each of the different classes for these, and makes it a little long for my TBR. Yeah, we'll start with Ariel. Now, Ariel wants to be a Master of Elements, which is only available to those in the Order of the Crescent, and a Feywild cartographer, because she just loves map making and going out and being adventurous and seeing all these different places. She needs to take alchemy, animal studies, astronomy, demonology, elemental studies, inscription, restoration, and shapeshifting. During the spring equinox, it's not too bad because it's pretty much pass or fail. You read the book or you don't. But for the autumn equinox, yeah, you gotta pass 3 different sections of the class. So you have your O, you have your Q, your ordinary, your qualified, and your D, your distinguished. So, for alchemy, it's an O class, so she just has to do the 1, and for that it's a book that'll make you emotional. And for that, I'm not quite sure. I don't really cry at books. Sometimes I'll get a little misty, maybe, but I do get the little heart feels and stuff. But I thought, well, the dude on the cover has a tear coming down, so this may make me emotional. So I went with Quicksilver by Callie Hart, the first book in the Fae and Alchemy series. We'll see if I get emotional or not. Next up, Animal Studies, also an O, luckily. So just the 1 book, and that is a phoenix on the cover or in the title. And for that, I will be reading Legend of the Phoenix Resurgence, and this is by Joel Poe, and it looks like it's going to be an interesting book. I have a feeling there's fighting involved somehow, or some kind of superhero-ness somewhere. Not sure. We'll find out. Next up, Astronomy, also just an O. A book released on your birth month. So it doesn't have to be the day or the year of your birth, it just has to be the month. So I am a December baby. And this one took a little bit of looking because most books are in like October and January and June and July. September, there's not a lot in December unless it's like Christmas books, which I didn't put any of those on my TBR yet. We'll save those for December. But I did find A Study in Scarlet by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and this was released in December. Demonology, also an O. Lucking out so far, just 1 book per course. A non-reader picks a book for you. So I did give my husband a list of 4 different books that he could choose from, and he did choose for my TBRopoly, he chose Katana of Trust by A.C. Ward, but then he needed to pick a different one for the Magical Readathon. For that, he chose A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair. I have this pretty much for every Readathon and TBRopoly that I'm doing. Might as well triple up on the book. And this is the first book in the Hades and Persephone series, and he just thought the title sounded really cool. Elemental Studies. Now, she does need to get a D in this one, so 3 different prompts that I need to read. And of course, you have to read the O first, and then the Q, and then the D. And for this one, O is your favorite scent in the title, on the cover, or in the author's name. And for this, you gotta work with me just a little bit. But I will be reading The Fall of the House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe, and Fall does have some amazing scents. I think if you just mention the word fall to anyone, they think of pumpkin and cinnamon and dried leaves and the smell of the cold on the air. So, The Fall of the House of Usher. For Q, read 100 pages longer than the last book you read as of first finding out about the prompt. I did watch the premiere of the video, and at the time I had just finished The World of Pooh by Terry Pratchett, and that book was 128 pages long. And so I did find one it's actually 224 pages, so it's pretty close. That is Do Bigger Things by Dan McClure and Jennifer Wilde. And for D, or Distinguished, it is Sparks on the Cover, and for this one, I chose Beyond the Veil by Pippa DaCosta, and of course this is just the second, a random page in the book on my Kindle. It doesn't have the cover of the actual book, so I will put that up here, and there are some sparks on the cover in a couple of different spots. Next up, inscription, and Ariel does need to get a Q, so she needs to read an O book and a Q book. So for O, it's all letters of the first name in the title. Now, I decided not to go with my first name because it is so hard to find a book that has a B and a Y, or a D and a Y in the same, all in the same title. I really struggled with this last time, so I decided to use Ariel's name since she is the one that is taking the class. So I went with Ariel, A-R-I-E-L. All right, so all the letters in Ariel's name I went with of Claws and Inferno. So we have A, R, I, E, and L. So we've got Ariel in the title. And this is by Kyoko M. Next we have color wheel for the title cover. So not the cover of the book, but the title of the book. And here is what I got. So let's see what she's gonna get. A luminous bright red. Interesting. See what I can find. Luminous red. Luminous bright red. And there weren't too many that I found that actually had red titles at all, but Fahrenheit 451 does, so I'm going with that one by Ray Bradbury. And then we have Restoration O, which she does need an O and a Q. So for O, Night Sky on the cover, and I will be reading A Closed and Common Orbit, the first book in the Wayfarer series by Becky Chambers. Restoration Q, Poisonous Plant on the cover or in the title. And I will be reading Unreal Academy, which is the first book in the Belladonna U series, and that is by Tansy Rain. So Belladonna, Poisonous Plant. And lastly, Shapeshifting, an O, Jewelry on the cover or in the title. And for this I have chosen Inheritance Games, the first book in the series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. So that is 12 books that Ariel needs to read. Next up we have Karasu. Now Karasu, as an order of the Archivists, can be a God-Seer. That is exclusive to their order. So he is God-Seer, he is also a scribe, and an Aldia excavationist. And he needs to take 13 classes for these 3 courses. So the first one is Animal Studies, and he does need to get a D in this one. So for the O prompt, he needs to have Phoenix in the title or on the cover. And he will be reading The Phoenix and the Turtle by William Shakespeare. Next up, read a standalone. And for that, he will be reading Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clark. Now, he is a scribe, so he does a lot of reading, so he shouldn't be too intimidated by this one. And for the D, to complete his Animal Studies, he needs to read a book that has had a cover change, and for that he will be reading A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross. Conjuration. He needs a Q, so let's start with the O prompt, and that is a bat on the cover. This one took me a while, because I'm sure I have a bunch of books with bats on the cover, but with the Kindle, I don't necessarily have the cover of every book in my spreadsheet, which I may need to rectify that because it makes this a lot easier. But I did find one, and it was actually a suggestion in the Aurelium Discord, so thank you so much for putting that in there, and that is Shadow of the Batgirl by Sarah Kuhn, and this one looks like it would be pretty fun, kind of an interesting one, kind of in the DC comic world. And for Q, the book has won an award, and for that I will be reading Cinder by Marissa Meyer, which is the first book in the Lunar Chronicles. And this one has won quite a few awards. Demonology, O, so just the one prompt, and that is a non-reader picks your book. So again, I had my husband pick me a book, and I was a little nervous because I told him I would make a list for him, and he could pick one of those books, and then he could just pick one just random book that he wants to read but doesn't have time for. Anything he wants me to read of books that he wants to read. So I was a little nervous because a lot of the books he wants to read kind of over my head. He likes a lot of investing and finance books, and some of them are a little more in depth than the level that I am at. So I was a little nervous, but I was also very surprised when he picked Autobiography of a Yogi, and that is by Paramahansa Yogananda. And yeah, don't know anything about this besides it's an autobiography of a yogi. I did look though, and it is 606 pages long. So we'll see how far into it I get. Yeah, so Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, and this one I'm already almost at 2,000 pages. Well, we're gonna stay positive. Elemental Studies, and O. Favorite scent in the title, on the cover, or in the author's name. And again, I went a little more abstract than just like lavender or orange somewhere on the cover. But it is a smell I really love and very much enjoy. And that is Spelling the Tea by Erin Johnson. And this is a magical tea room mystery. I love the smell of tea. I enjoy just about everything about tea. So that's what I went with. Inscription, also an O. Title has all the letters of first name. So again, I went with my character's name, and that is Karasu. And this one was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be, because I already have a book on my TBRopoly that starts with a K. So Katana of Trust by A.C. Ward, and so we have K-A-R-A-S-U, Karasu. Very cool.
I totally missed the rest of the inscription prompts, so he needs a D in inscription, and I only picked out the O. For Q, the prompt is ink pigmentation, color wheel for title color. All right, random color generator for Karasu. Let's see what one he gets. Brown. So he chose The Obsidian Tower, the first book in the Rooks and Ruins series by Melissa Caruso, and this is the group book for Seasonathon Academy. For D in inscription is Credit Etiquette, a book by author mentioned in a recent 5-star reads acknowledgments. This one was really tough because I already returned most of the books to my library, so I don't have them to look at. And the books that I do have, most of them are indie or self-published, and all of the acknowledgments are to friends and family, their editor, beta readers, that kind of thing, so they don't mention any authors. So this one was really rough. But then at the end of one of David Estes' books, and I've given most of his books 5 stars, at the end of the acknowledgments it did have other books that he's written, and it did happen to have Demon's Reign, which was co-written by Ben Galley. So I am totally taking that, and I will be adding Pale Kings, the second book in the Emaneska series by Ben Galley. And if there's time, I would like to get to the group books for both Ariel and Karasu. And the Ariel is in the Order of the Crescent, and the group book for Ariel is Evocation by S.T. Gibson, and I would love to get to that one. And then for the group book for Karasu, who's part of the Archivists, they did pick The Will of the Many by James Islington, so I hope that maybe I can get to that one.
Next up is lore, and Karasu does need a D in lore. So for O, the prompt is a vampire book. I went with Awakened Vampire, which is the first book in the Nightshade Academy series by Kestra Pingree. Not sure if that's how you say it or not. And definitely vampires, but it also has Nightshade in the title, so that could be used for poisonous prompt as well. For Q, a translated book. And for this, I will be reading Sweet Daryusia by Maria Matios. And for D, you need to read a retelling, and I will be reading What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher, which is a retelling of the fall of the House of Usher. And lastly, Restoration. He does need a Q in this one. And for O, it's A Night Sky on the cover, and I will be reading Hex Life by a variety of authors, as it is a short story collection. And then for Q, a poisonous plant on the cover, in the title, or in the author's name. And for that, I will be reading Freak Show, which is the first book in the Nightshade Cases series by Patty Larson. So that is my readathons for September. And this TBR is subject to change as I start reading some of the books and find out if they actually fit the prompts or not, or if I read some books that fit some of the prompts better, I may swap them out. But these are my planned books so far for my readathons for September, and I'm very excited. Are you participating in any of these readathons? And if so, which ones? Have you read any of these books? And if you do, which ones should I prioritize? Are there some that are 5-star books for you and I should absolutely get to them? Or if you think they're not that great and I can leave them to the end, let me know. That would be very helpful. Again, I will leave all of the readathon announcement videos linked down below for you, so in case you would like to participate or just check out and watch the different videos and see what's happening in the realm of readathons in September. And please like, comment, and subscribe if you want it, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any videos from me. And if you made it this far, leave a wand emoji in the comments in honor of the magical readathon by the amazing G at Book Roast. And until next time, keep reading. Bye!